Welcome to
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose is a podcast of inspiring people whose stories help you see things differently, live with intentionality, elevate the way you participate in the world, and take the necessary leaps in your life to seek and find your passions. Come with us and develop the courage to wholeheartedly pursue your purpose and unleash your truest potential. Welcome to People of Purpose. Today in our home studio, we have Louden.
Hello.
And we have Gary Harper. Gary, who are you and what do you do? Why are you here?
My name is Gary Harper. I am a national speaker, business coach, a owner of 14 different businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses that work collaboratively together to help entrepreneurs scale properly. I'm an author of 5 books, best-selling author of 2, and been able to work with some of the top real estate entrepreneurs in the country over the last 8 years, and now aspiring around the world. We have 7 companies we coach outside of the United States.
So Gary is the person we identified very early in our entrepreneurship journey that we needed to intersect with, that we craved and yearned to be our coach. And today was a dream come true when he came to our house all day long to one-on-one coach our business, him and his wife, Susan. Gary has mastered a lot of things that I want to master in my life as a business owner. I'm sure Phil does. And today we'll be asking him questions around some of the business skills specifically. He asked to not go too personal today, that we'd focus mostly on business nuggets. And we also have an audience of people here that are all entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. And I believe Gary can touch a lot of lives with this.
Good. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me, guys.
Live at the studio in Kansas City.
100%.
Going straight out Kansas.
So Gary, you have a really unique blend of things. You're not just like today you said, I don't like massive action. I like consistent action.
Well, Susan said that, but yeah, I agree with it.
And then you also focus a lot on like biblical principles. You focus a lot on leadership-based business engagement. You have partners in your business that are doing the operations. You have literally every part of your life that is going through someone else. Like I said, you don't lone wolf anything.
Yeah.
You even have someone else checking, like doing all your email, checking your text messages, scheduling you for things.
Yeah.
When in your life did you begin to make that shift where it's like, it's all on me to it's team and I'm a leader of the team?
Well, I think it was driven in me from the get-go because I started my career in corporate America. And in corporate America, you can't be a lone wolf. Mavericks either rise straight to the top or get pushed out of the company really fast. So you have to augment, you have to change your mindset pretty quickly in areas of working in corporate. Because corporate's going to drive you to get things done through other people. They're going to leverage your time to the maximum ability. And so if you're not being efficient with your time, then they're not going to keep you around. So I think that was driven in me by corporate America, along with the training, right? Leadership training, management training, all that was done. And corporations are driven more towards creating managers, not leaders, right? They want results. Leaders love people, managers love process. So process drives the results in an organization. So they're going to train you around driving results versus leading. And multitasking comes from more of a management than a leadership. Makes sense?
That makes sense.
And so the ability to time manage really is about driving results properly and getting things done through others. So my goal isn't to actually drive people to get things done. My job as a leader is to inspire them to want to do it. Right? So when people come to me, I have people coming to me with solutions all the time because they desire or they feel inspired to want to do something versus me feeling like I'm constantly pushing people to do something.
Was that a natural skill set that you had, or is that something that you developed over time?
I think all leadership is something that has to be continually worked on. I don't think you're a natural leader. I think leadership is something that is a muscle you have to build in your body. Yeah. I think we default naturally to accountability and being good managers. When I left corporate America, I'll tell you, I think I was a great manager. I think I was a terrible leader. Right? I got Lyme's disease at 35 years old, almost passed away, went back to a 5-year-old mental state, and in that time, I couldn't be an executive anymore. And I had 750 employees and one called me to see if I made it. Oof. I won executive of the year 8 out of 10 years.
Wow. And only one person called you to see if you were still alive.
Yeah, and that person works for me today. His name was Andy Briner.
What did you learn about your leadership from that feedback?
100% learned that I was great at driving results and getting the company results, but I was terrible at leading people. And people that want to be led by other people want to feel inspired. We're in a world right now, in a generation of millennials, right? The 52% of the workforce is led or managed by millennials now. Are you guys millennial?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many of you guys in the room today are millennial? Yeah, so you're born after 1980 or up until 1995. So 80 to 95 is a millennial world. So anybody born in that time frame? Anybody born after 95? So after 95 is Z, and then Z to A. And now we have A entering the workforce, which is, the alpha generation. They're entering the workforce. But the millennials down to Z, down to A, are thinking back, how the alphabet works, coming back around. They want the emotional paycheck. There's two types of paychecks. There's a financial and there's an emotional, right? 67% of the people that quit their job in the Great Resignation, which happened from 2020 till now, will quit their job because of the lack of emotional paychecks. They said the purpose.
What's an emotional paycheck?
Emotional paycheck is when you can see your purpose being fulfilled working where you are, right? Whatever that purpose is in your life at that moment. So it's really important that we put people in the right seat. It's really important that we get the right people. It's really important that we align them with our culture, right? And part of alignment with culture, which comes back around to purpose, is the employee being able to see how their personal purpose is going to be fulfilled by working here. That's called an emotional paycheck. You put somebody in the right seat and they enjoy what they do, that's an emotional paycheck, right? There's about 10 different areas that people, location, culture, these different things that we talk about, all these things are emotional paychecks to an employee. Yeah. Do they align with your values? What are their values? Are you respecting who they are as people? Right? And when you do that, you're giving somebody an emotional paycheck. And studies show that when you give somebody an emotional paycheck, they don't come to work for you because they want to. They come to work because they come to work because they want to, not because they have to. Right? Productivity goes up 64% when somebody wants to be there versus they have to. George Carlin said, most people work hard enough not to get fired and get paid just enough not to quit. That's a have to employee.
So what I'm hearing is that it's about purpose. It's about having a higher meaning, that the company's mission matters and your purpose is getting fulfilled within it.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day. We heard it this morning just in your session where, one of your employees looked and said, one of the main reasons I'm here is because what they're trying to accomplish. What's the purpose of the organization? That's an emotional paycheck. You're going to pay more money when you don't give an emotional paycheck. You're going to pay more money in turnover. You're going to pay more in salaries. You're going to pay more money in lost opportunity, lost productivity when you don't give an emotional paycheck. Because people are there because they have to be, not because they want to be.
So when you're a business owner and you're going through challenges of lack of cash flow, not enough hands to help, whatever it may be, how do you continue to remain focused on emotional paycheck when you're like in somewhat of a survival mentality?
Well, I think it's a part of the role of the organizational leader to make sure that they're incorporating that in. And so, when you're in a survival mentality, I'd probably question whether or not you have people that are emotionally charged and want to be part of it. Because survival means that you're trying to figure it all out on your own. You feel like your back's against the wall. Where when you have people in the organization that want to be there, they're there to help you solving problems.
How do you decide who you invite into your organization?
Well, there's culture. You got to have them in the right culture. So we have to align with people. The first thing is position. Are they putting them in the right seat? We talk about how do we know somebody's in the right seat? It's their heart, their head, their hands, and the feet, right? The heart, the head, the hands, the feet tell you if you're in the right seat. Somebody desires it, heart. They have the behavioral traits to do it, head. The skills, the hands, right? Have they been trained in this? And then last, the feet. Are they motivated? Are they moved to want to do and grow the seat or grow with the seat? And when somebody has the heart, the head, the hands, the feet, they're in the right seat. The second thing we align with is the values and vision. Are you the right person to do this job? Not just the right seat, but are you the right person for my company? And how do you make sure somebody's the right person? You ask the question, do they align with your values and your vision? Where we're going. Somebody aligns with our values and our vision, they're the right people for us. But then we have to make sure they're in the right seat, that they have the right desire, the head, the hands, the feet to do the job. Because the whole person comes to work. Far too often we interview and hire people just based on skills, which is the hands. Make sense?
Yeah.
So we got to have right people, values and vision, right seat, heart, head, hands, and feet. Number 3 is, are they aligned with your goals? What are your goals of the organization? And are their goals aligned with yours? Are they wanting to see you achieve? You could be like, I don't want to make an impact on the world. This is my purpose. This is my vision. I want to impact the world. I want to impact buying and selling houses. I want to be in the world of niche of real estate. But then it's like, hey, I want to do 300 houses a year. And they're like, I don't want to do 300 houses a year. I only really want to be a part of 50. So you can have a vision alignment, but not a goal alignment.
Yeah.
That's why I see most partnerships split, by the way, is in goal alignment. One guy's like, this is strategy. This is what I want to do. And the other guy's like, I don't want to do that. That sounds like way too much work. Right? Well, I thought you would align with my vision of like you wanted to make an impact on people's lives. I do, but I don't really want to impact 300 people because that's negatively impacting my life, right? So goal alignment's number 3. Last is purpose alignment. So right seat, right people, right goals, and does our purposes align? Can you see how this company's purpose is going to help you achieve yours? And that's why you bring people in. That's the only reason you bring people in, is they align in those 4 areas. And this goes across the platform, right? Like any relationship you're in life, whether it's a partnership, an employment, or a relationship, a personal relationship, you have to align in those 4 areas. You're married.
Yeah.
When you got married with your wife, did one of you agree to who was going to do the dishes?
Yeah.
Okay. Did somebody agree to pay the bills?
Yeah.
Did somebody agree to cut the grass?
We agreed to hire the grass to be cut.
Okay. So you had an alignment
Yeah.
in who's cutting the grass. You both aligned to the fact that you neither one of you are going to do it.
Yeah.
How about cleaning the house? Somebody going to clean the house?
My wife.
There you go. So you had a position alignment conversation.
It went way beyond that. It was like, what kind of friends do we allow into our inner
Which is
circle?
different, though. That's values and vision.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
or what people are we going to have? Do we align in values and vision? Right? But you initially had a conversation around what positions your relationship would hold.
Mm-hmm.
We do it subconsciously almost. Like, all right, so if we get married, who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? That's position alignment in your relationship.
Yeah.
Then you sit down and you evaluate what people do we want in our life? What values and vision do we want to base this relationship on?
Mm.
Third thing you do is like, what do you want to accomplish? What goals do you want to have? How many kids do you want to have? Have you talked about that? How many kids do you want to have?
2.
There you go. Is she aligned with that goal?
Yes.
Well, there you go. Now you got goal alignment. Last is purpose. Is your purpose, does she support your purpose in life?
Yes.
Does she know what it is?
Yeah.
Do you know hers?
She wants to be the best mom and the best wife.
Okay. Well, then if that's her purpose in life, then you have to constantly check in on each other and make sure you're helping each other fulfill that purpose.
She wants to be happy every day.
There
She has like simple present moment. That's her
as long
purpose.
as that's her purpose. Right? And so we have to make sure the people in our life, whether it's a business or our personal life, align in those 4 areas.
Mm.
And that's what creates great culture. That's where we have the divide in the country right now. We got people that don't believe certain people should be in seats and positions. We have other people that don't align with that person should be in that position and this person should be in that position. We have other people that are like, I don't like their values, I don't like their vision, which is what everybody's evaluating right now with the election. What's their values? What's their vision? Third thing is, what's their goals? What are they trying to accomplish? How do they see this thing playing out in 4 years from now? And last is purpose. What's our purpose as a country? What are we trying to accomplish in the next 4 years that allows us to be known for something? What do we want to be remembered for? So everybody's making that decision. That's why our culture gets messed up every 4 years, because we expose misalignment.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
And that transcends into a business, that transcends into a relationship, transcends into a country. It has to align. And when we don't have alignment, we have discord, which is frustration.
And then what do you do to interrupt the disunity? Like, what role do you specifically play to bring that?
As a coach?
As a coach, a leader of your household, as someone responsible for the health of our country, what do you do?
Be willing to engage in healthy conflict. Be willing to call it out. Be willing to get on the same page. Be willing to ask the tough question. Be willing to engage in conversation that's going to drive clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Transparency and communication is what creates alignment. You have to have both. I say it all the time. Where you have no communication, you have a dead relationship. It's called disengagement.
Mm-hmm.
Told my CEO yesterday, the people in our company that aren't bringing problems or solving problems, they are disengaged. They are no longer engaged in what their business model is. Or a relationship. You know, I was told by a couples counselor one time, a good friend of mine, Keith Cowling, he does couples counseling and leadership coaching. And we were talking, and I just asked him a generalized question because we've been, he's been married for almost 30 years. And I just asked him, like, bro, 30 years, like, how do you know when a relationship's over? And he's like, when one of them's not willing to engage anymore. They're not willing to fix the problem.
Yeah.
It's over.
I see it as it's a daily choice
It is,
to
every day.
choose loving each other again.
Well, same thing with employment. Same thing with running a business. People have to choose to get up every single day, and they come to work either because they have to or because they want to. And I'd much rather have a company filled with want to employees than have to employees. And want to employees are aligned in those 4 areas.
So you said that when you left corporate America, you had one person come visit you and you had Lyme's disease.
Well, he called, yes.
Who called? And I'm curious how your leadership evolved since then. 'Cause you said, like, as a leader, what you do is you inspire others towards action. So what changed after that?
Well, I mean, one is I had to recognize I was a great manager, but not a good leader. So second thing is I had to then discover what good leadership was. And I always say great leaders are students of leadership. Right? One of the things we do every single day is, or every week, is we try to read 3 books a week. That's our goal, is to read 3 books a week. And at the same time of that happening, understanding the importance of education around leadership, I started my kids working towards reading every week as well. Most people pay their kids for chores and stuff like that. I won't. I refuse to pay my kids for chores. I said, this is being a good steward of our house, right? Like, you don't get paid to be a good steward of your neighborhood, right? Like, nobody's going to pay you to keep your yard clean, right? Because that's what a good steward, a good neighbor is. And so I wasn't going to pay them to do chores. However, when they wanted extra money for sporting events, clothes, things like that, I did pay them to read.
Pay them to read.
I did. I paid them $40 for every book they read on self-help, leadership, or growth-minded things. The book had to be approved by me prior to the start of the reading, and they had to write a 1-page report. So anytime they handed that in with a 1-page report of how they would apply it to their life, I would pay my kids to do that.
And today your kids are your business partners and your top employees.
They are. I mean, my daughter was my COO until she got pregnant and decided to step down. And now she's my executive assistant. But probably we'll go back to our COO here at some point once she has, her priorities with her family back where she wants them to be. And then my son is our chief growth officer. He's in charge of the growing of our organization. So they're 25 and 23 years old. They've always worked for us. And it's not because they have to, it's because they've wanted to. I always said I would measure the success of being a dad when my kids wanted to be with me and when they no longer had to be.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So when your kids no longer have to be there and they still want to be there, that's a really good measurement to how you did as a parent. People decide whether or not they want to or have to is a very good measurement of any type of leadership. When you have employees that want to be a part of what you do, you've inspired them properly.
Yeah.
When they have to be, then you're not a very good leader.
So a really attractive part about entrepreneurship for me, which I discovered when I was living in Thailand, that's where I met Phil, that's where I met my wife.
Sure.
I was able to work online like for 5 hours a week and have all my financial needs met. And so I read a lot and listened to a lot of podcasts, learned about entrepreneurship. One of the things that was so attractive for me was that you can design your life around the family you want to have, the kids you want to have. Like a book like Rich Dad, Poor Dad taught me that you make this upfront investment and you can get more and more and more freedom to be with your family versus, less freedom on like the more job type of path.
Sure.
What advice do you have around that for entrepreneurs that are maybe at year 2, year 3, year 4 and are starting families? Like, for me, I'm entering year 4 of this business, year 5 as an entrepreneur. I'm having my first daughter come. What advice would you have for me? You know where our business is at. You know what we're going through. We're literally moving to Thailand. Like, how do I stay very present with my family and my business?
Well, I heard a statement that was said a long time ago by a good friend of mine. His name is Patrick Lencioni. He's written a bunch of books, if you know who he is. 5 Dysfunctional Team, the many others, but the Ideal Team Player and others. He made the statement that if he ran his business the way he ran his family, he'd be bankrupt. And so I think you have to take the same approach to your families as you do your business. You have to be proactive and intentional on how you run your family. He wrote a book called The 3 Big Questions for a Frantic Family. It's a business an operating system for your family.
Susan Harper.
Woo, Susan Harper, everybody.
That's all right. Dog's down there. He'll lick your feet for you.
Okay, good.
So I think that's important. I think you have to be intentional. I think anything you're leading in life, it comes around to intentionality, right? Like you're going to get the results that you have based on your intention. And I said the statement the other day, like whether you have a team or you have a family, you have the team or you have the family you deserve.
Yeah. I'm responsible for the results that
100%.
we have.
If you have a crappy team, if you have crappy employees, then you are a crappy leader.
Good or bad, the results of your life.
You have the team you deserve. You have the family you deserve. So it all comes down to intentionality. Like, how intentional are you at making sure it's successful?
What do you do to sometimes these things come up that say, I don't quite have enough money to invest in myself, or don't quite have enough time, or I don't quite know people yet, so therefore I'm going to settle, my intentionality is going to get watered down. What do you say to people that
I
are in
say
that
those
spot?
are excuses, and excuses are tools of incompetence. That's what I say to that.
Yeah.
Because we take time for what we value in life. It's what happens. And I would say, if that's what your excuses are, then you show me every single thing that you're doing every single day, and I'll point out the things you value.
What's a stretch that you've made recently that felt uncomfortable, that was felt a little bit incompetent in, that but you had a strong intention and you took the bold leap anyways?
I mean, losing weight would be that for me. I mean, I didn't want to embark on a weight loss journey. Who wants to do that? You know, but I also feel like if I'm going to lead other people, I have to start with myself. So I think the purest form of leadership starts with you. You know, you have to lead you first. And so that was not a comfortable thing for me. And
what does that look like? Because you also mentioned, so you mentioned leadership is like leading through others. So how does that begin with you? Does that make sense?
I mean, I think, yeah, again, it comes back down to intentionality. One of the things I do every week is I sit down and do a mental clarity break. So on a Friday, tomorrow will be the day, I sit down and evaluate my leadership, and then I cleanse my mind as a leader. And so understanding what I need to be a healthy leader and what I need to make sure that I stay focused and intentional in my actions is what I take time for on a weekly basis. So one of the things I do first is I write down and evaluate, what was my leadership like this week? Did I empower people? Do I challenge the status quo? Did I inspire properly, right? Did I model the behavior? Those 4 things. It's written about in my curriculum.
Yeah.
Did you challenge? Did you inspire? Did you empower? And did you model? And so I look at those 4 areas every single week of my life and go, what areas do I need to adjust in these areas? What did I not do well? What did I do well? You see, because the thing is, as a leader, we think we got to be perfect, and that's not true. We just have to learn from our failure. So when you fail this week, you have to be intentional and try not to do it again next week. There are days that I didn't eat right on my weight loss journey. There are weeks I didn't eat right on my weight loss journey. It was a question of, did I persevere past that and learn from the mistake and not go back there? And do I create good habits based on that failure? Right? Second thing I do on a weekly basis, I'm looking for that emotional cleanse, that mental cleanse on a weekly basis. Because one of the things as leaders is we have to have a sound mind. We have to have a mental and emotional sound mind. Because we can't make emotional decisions that are based in not reality. We can't borrow from tomorrow's problems and make an emotional decision based on it. Right? And so every Friday, one of the things I do is I take 30 minutes and I write down everything that is a negative thought in my brain, my mind. So I think about things, and for 10 minutes, I write down every negative thought I have. Right? Zig Ziglar used to call it stinking thinking. Right? Like, what is the negative thoughts that aren't true? Maybe some of them are true. But anyway, I'm cleansing my mind of all those negative thoughts. There's a verse in the Bible that says, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bone. So what's that telling us? Well, it tells us that if we're going to dry out our spirit, if we're going to be negative in our thinking, then we're going to feel downtrodden. We're going to feel depressed. Right? But a merry heart doeth good like a medicine. So that means that merry heart or a positive outlook can heal the mind. So in that reverse effect, the first thing I do is I write down all my negative thoughts. What I'm trying to do? Trying to purge the negative thoughts, right? Because I need to start the process of healing the mind. And I can't do that if I have negative thoughts. Second thing I do for the next 10 minutes is I write down everything I'm grateful for. Make sense?
Yeah.
So first is all my negative thoughts. Next 10 minutes is everything I'm grateful for. And then the last 10 minutes, I write down everything I can do better. What can I innovate, fix, change, or grow as a leader to do? So that's how I start with me. I start with leading me first. I have to make sure I'm in a good place. Next thing is I want to make sure I protect my energy. When people talk about being burned out, it's not a thing. Being burned out only happens when people feel like they're alone. They're doing something that they feel they're alone at.
Yeah.
That's all that burnout is. It's a feeling of being alone.
At the last weekend I went to of our Atlas leadership training, they said people crave connection more than they crave like food and water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, everybody craves it in one way or another.
Yeah.
Right? It's our behavioral traits that cause the interaction. But everybody craves some type of connection, whether it's connection emotionally, physically, mentally. Like all of us are looking for some type of a connection, a feeling of belonging. So we don't feel like we're going at it alone. And that's where people get the most depression from, is when they feel like they're alone in the situation. So communities are very important to keep that connection up.
Hello, Susan. Susan is Gary's wife. 27 years?
Yeah.
Is that right? What do you guys do to stay really connected? Gary's a maverick. He's an extremely high achiever, very results oriented, owns dozens of companies simultaneously sometimes, coaches another several dozen. How do you guys stay connected and not him just become a big worker?
I mean, we work in business and life, right? So the business aspect, I'll let you answer from a business perspective.
Well, we just have very clear identities and roles as to what he's responsible for versus what I'm responsible for. So very clear cut, like this is your role, your job, your responsibility, and this is mine. So it's easy to not trample over each other because we understand the responsibilities of who's doing what. So
I think the other thing too is we respect individuality.
Yeah.
Like we talked about earlier, she has her own bank account, I have my own bank account. Right? Our bunny comes in to a joint account, bills agreed upon, aligned bills are paid, and the money goes from there to other bank accounts, individual, so that we still support each other's own personal interests.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're supporting individuality within your marriage, and that's allowing each of you to thrive individually, giving and nourishing what you need to continue contributing to the relationship.
Yeah, I think the other thing is just a level of respect to allow her to go do what she feels is pleasurable for her in life versus a feeling of control.
Yeah, we definitely help support each other's desires and wants and anything we want to go explore. I want to jump out of a plane. He does not. I'm not going to force him to go jump out of a plane with me. But he'll encourage me to go do it.
I know. I've seen Gary's like very clear with his yeses and clears with his no's in a way that like I seek to be that. There's a sense of self-awareness that he just knows what he's in for, what he's not in for. Mm-hmm. How do you get to that level of clarity?
You want to answer? You want me to answer?
Yeah, you go ahead.
I mean, for me, it's experience. It's failing enough, trying different things that I know that, I have a rule that I try everything twice.
Yeah, that's where I was.
Try everything twice.
Yeah, I try everything twice.
Most people have the try everything once rule.
Nope.
No, because how can you really know if you experienced it properly the first time?
The first time might have been peer pressure. The first time might have been,
anxiety.
Don't know that you like it or not.
Yeah. So then why wouldn't you try it twice just to see if you got the
So you tried skydiving twice?
I wouldn't try it the first time.
So there are some definite no's.
Anything I do try, I'm going to try 2 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we can legitimately say, I didn't like that experience or we won't do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are categories of things that I go, I've done that twice, it's too close to that, and I won't do that.
Yeah.
Right? And then the second thing is I'm going to ask myself, does it bring me pleasure? Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't bring me pleasure, then why would I want to do it anyway? Right? So that's the way I make my decisions. I make my decisions on whether or not it brings me pleasure in some area of life. And if it doesn't, then why would I waste my time with it? The other thing that I do is I always evaluate things based on energy. Like, I will not do things that de-energize me. I refuse to. If I have a brand new business that I start and it's going to make me a lot of money and it's very scalable and I have to sit in the company and it's going to de-energize me, I won't start the company. There's no reason in that. We only have one life to live. Why would you go through life feeling de-energized?
I notice a lot of in me and my network is like, I just give this thing another quarter, another year, and then I'll get to do the thing I want to do. Huh. How do you break that cycle?
Don't start it. I mean, that's the best way to break it is not to start it. Like, start with intentionality of like bringing people in that are going to sit in seats that energize them and in seats to energize you, and then delegate the things that shouldn't be. Yeah. So, like, every business I start with the intentionality of, like, I don't want to sit as a resource in the company.
But even today, there was still, like, some compromises. Like, David didn't want the transaction coordinator role forever, but you asked him about 90 days, and he's like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that's because we're evaluating a business. And a business is things we determine: time, money, and people. So how much time frame are we going to do this? 90 days. What money do we need to make? What money do we need to spend? Which is what we predetermined today. Number 3, what people do we need to get this done? And do they have the heart, the head, the hands, and the feet to do it this 90 days? But in 90 days, we reevaluate. Do you still want to do this job in 90 days for the next 90 days? Right? And if they don't want to do it, then we'll make a shift. Your business is only a 13-week business. Any business is only a 13-week business. Every business can go out of business in 13 weeks or less. If you don't believe me, look back to COVID. How many Fortune 500 companies filed for bankruptcy in the first 90 days of COVID?
I don't know.
A lot.
A lot. Go research it. Nike, Taco Bell, a lot of them started to look at bankruptcy in the first 90 days.
What was the cause of that?
Process, product,
People.
That's what causes it. The profits start to drop. There's 3 things that drive profits: people, process, and product, people, and process drive profits. And so when one of those 3 are affected, then you're going to have profit problems. When the process is broke, cost profits. What was happening? COVID was affecting people's process. What was it also affecting? It was affecting people's products. What else was it affecting? It was affecting people's people.
People's people.
It was.
Yeah.
People couldn't go into the office, they couldn't perform the process, and they couldn't sell the product. And guess what happened to their profits?
Down.
It did. So in the first 90 days, they started evaluating bankruptcy. I mean, business can go out of business in 13 weeks or less if those 3 things are affected.
What are your thoughts on bankruptcy? Is that something that like you want to avoid at all costs, or is that something that like you see as some sort of natural evolutionary cycle in the journey of an entrepreneur?
I mean, if you look at entrepreneurs and study entrepreneurs, like Disney, filed bankruptcy more than 3 times. He was bankrupt multiple times. So like I think some entrepreneurs take enough risk that causes them to fail and causes them to file bankruptcy. I don't think any one of those people, if you ever interviewed them, so that was my intention.
No.
What's your goal? File bankruptcy in the next 5 years. I mean, I don't think anybody's going at it that way, right? My perspective on bankruptcy is do what you say you're going to do, which would be not lead yourself to bankruptcy. But there are things outside of your control. You don't control COVID. You don't control elections. You don't control the market. You don't control reassessing of taxes. You don't control regulations. You don't control laws that are passed. I mean, you don't control those things. And when those things happen and they create a reverse effect on your business to the point of bankruptcy, then that's what it's there for. It wouldn't be a lawful thing to do if there wasn't exceptions that calls you outside of your control.
What I noticed today was a really interesting, I couldn't believe I just forgot like step 1. You're just like, if you're having financial difficulties, you run out of money to fix up the property, talk to the lender that gave you the loan. And like be honest that you don't have any money and can they front you some? And we went to like how can we get money from private market and how can we not need to record the mortgage and all these things that would be in some gray area with our initial loan. And you're like just talk to the lender.
Well, I mean they're your partner.
Yeah.
I mean my recommendation always is to be honest.
Yeah.
Be honest. Like that's the primary rule of business. Do what you say you're going to do and be honest.
Yeah.
Right? And so when circumstances happen in life and you can't do what you want or you there wasn't intentionality behind a mess up, then you're honest about it. You just go be honest to the people you mess up to. Whether you mess up in your relationship, you mess up in partnerships, you mess up in, any part of your life, the goal is to go to that person and own it. Be honest. In case you intentionally tried to not be honest.
What does it sound like to own up to your mistake?
Hey, I messed up. Just wanted to let you know. And this is what I'm planning to do to fix it.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't overcomplicate it.
Complicated.
It's not. It's
mostly an emotional hurdle to get over.
Well, no,
Sure.
it's the repercussion of honesty that people are afraid of.
Right.
People are afraid of like what could happen or how they're going to let them down or the embarrassment of not hitting their goals. And like, it's an ego thing. Most people, problem is when people mess up, instead of just owning it and owning the ego that goes along with it, they compound the problem with making other bad decisions. Desperate people do desperate things.
Yeah. So one breakdown leads to another thing breaking down. Leads
I've
to a
never met
snowball.
anybody that ended up in a lot of trouble that couldn't have avoided it if they just would have owned it at the beginning. obviously there's things that are like unforgivable when you do these things wrong, right? But the truth is, even in those situations, when somebody owns it right away, the penalty is usually not as deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, raising kids, we took the same approach. Like, if you come tell us that something happened, you'll be in a whole lot less trouble than if we find out about it. And honestly, if we just treated every relationship like that, no matter if that's in life or in business or anything, it's like, hey, if they have to find out about it, we're always in much deeper trouble. So if we bring a problem to whomever we have a problem with, it's just so much easier to address it and get on the same page as to how we're going to fix it.
And when you're on the side that has been wronged, how do you respond to someone when they come up to you and bring that?
Well, I mean, it all comes down to intentionality. Did they do it on purpose, or was it a result of, something outside of their control? If somebody's doing something and you find out they're open and honest and they did something with intentionality to hurt somebody or do something wrong, it's kind of the way our laws are written, right? Like, you intentionally go out and hurt somebody, you're going to get a lot bigger penalty than if it's an unintentional behavior. Right? Do you still have a penalty to pay? You sure do. But the penalty is usually not as steep as intentionality.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. It's an evaluation of intention. Were you intentional in your actions, or were you not intentional in your actions?
One question I think Phil and I have been wondering, maybe you want to be the one to ask it, is just like, what is that arc of like becoming successful and making sure it's actually sustainable?
Well, I'm curious because you've seen so many entrepreneurs, the insides of so many businesses. I'm curious about your thoughts on the success arc of an entrepreneur. Because a lot of people think about overnight successes. I mean, I'm curious what your thoughts are on like at what point in an entrepreneurial journey like people actually do reach that point of great success.
I have found anytime we start rushing to success, mistakes start happening, and then we get setbacks and like breakdowns and the stuff we just talked about.
First off, define what success is. Yeah, what you define as success and what I define as success might not be the same thing.
Living in your intentional result that you set.
Okay, so everybody's is different.
Everybody's is different.
So again, that then determines what success is.
Most entrepreneurs want financial success, and
so that's just money?
I would say like peace with money, harmony with my family and my business.
So
I would say impact that's aligned to the impact I want to have in the world. Connected relationships that mean something to me and I feel with them.
Yeah.
Vulnerable, open, honest conversations.
Well, I think for me that comes down to whether or not they were intentional in the way their actions were, one. Number two, how good of a leader were they? Because it takes a lot longer to achieve that when they're a bad leader.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about some people today, and I won't mention their names, but when I went in to coach them, they had been doing their business for 10, 15 years already, and they weren't hitting that success as you determined it. Mm. Now they are 4 or 5 years later because of their mindset shift and the leadership they became. Mm-hmm. They became intentional in their leadership. So I think that's the first thing. The other thing is, again, understanding what success is. And success to me, if you're asking my opinion of success, my definition of success is hitting your purpose. Living within your purpose.
Yes.
Same thing within your business. Like your business's purpose. Harvard Business Review said that average businesses go through 5 stages of growth. The 5th stage is business maturity. So it's not a 10x thing that creates success in a business. It's reaching its purpose. And if your purpose is a small community store that provides cookies to all the, locals.
Yeah.
Community people.
Yeah, and your purpose is to get your cookie to be purchased by 75% of everybody in the local community. That may not be a lot of revenue, but that's still the company's purpose. So then that's success. Now, that doesn't mean that translates back to them being financially free and all that, but that's not the intentionality of why they started the business. They started the business for this one purpose. And so I determine success based on, did you achieve purpose?
Yeah.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so on a personal level, I determine success based on choice. That's what freedom is. Freedom is the power to choose.
Okay.
Right? So success happens in my life, in my mind, when I have the choice to decide to go or not go. When I have the choice to decide to work in the company or not work in the company. Like, I still enjoy working in some of our companies. Well, one, I still enjoy working in consulting. I still like to consult. I still like to coach. But that's all I do. I don't do anything else. And if I decide I don't want to go, then I don't go. I'll send somebody else on our team to go because we've budgeted 40% for the day to go to a coach. So my company doesn't care if I go or don't go.
Yeah,
So
like today, how
does.
you taught us about like the difference between like the founder's distribution and the salary. Like they're not just like one and the same. It's like, are you contributing the way an employee would? Then you get paid that market value. If you're not, then you're taking money from a valuable seat that could be doing that contribution.
Yeah, and then you own the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a dentist tied to your chair at that point. So that's the biggest mistake most entrepreneurs make is when they start a company, they start formatting their lifestyle based on the profits and the proceeds of the company. And they haven't determined yet whether or not these seats in the company are seats they want to stay in the rest of their life before they start formulating their lifestyle around that profit.
Because it seems like you need to prove the concept, that you need to like make the leap successfully.
Just don't go out and buy the car and go buy the nice house and everything else is going to require you to stay in that seat.
People get entrenched in it when they can't get out
locked
of it.
in what we call quicksand.
Because they look at it as a false profit of their business, because they're not recognizing the actual payroll that it would take to replace themselves
I see
At
that.
scale.
at scale. Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah, so what happens is people come into a company. I see it all the time in masterminds for real estate guys. They're like, I make 60, 75% profits. I'm like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you absolutely don't. I've never met a real estate company that has that high of profits. Like, well, mine does. No, it doesn't. It just tells me right then and there you're sitting in multiple seats in your company and you're not paying yourself, so that's falling to the bottom line and you're seeing it as profit.
But if you actually hired out those roles, your profit margin would be much lower.
So I'm like, well, your profits are high, then why don't you go hire somebody sitting there? Well, the company can afford that. Well, exactly. That's my whole point. If the company could afford it, then you wouldn't be at 70% margins. So if you have somebody, if you're sitting in marketing and it's 10 hours a week, and you're in acquisitions and it's 15 hours a week, and you're in finance and it's another 10 hours a week, now we're at 35 hours a week. So who's doing operations? Well, you are. Now we got another 15 hours a week. Now you're working 50 hours a week. You're like, well, my business is making 70% profits. No, it's not. You're
And
just
if you
not
don't show
paying
up
yourself for each one of those seats. But if you went back and you budgeted for each one of those seats and you started paying for them, as the company starts to grow, you would be able to see actuals of what you're paying for each one of those seats. So at the company's getting 10 houses and that's the profits of it, you can't afford anybody with 10 houses. But when we get in 50 houses and each one of these seats are now full time and you have a budget for each one of those seats, now you can start to replace yourself in those seats. You say, hey, I finally reached in my business performer where this seat's 40 hours a week and it pays $80,000 a year. And so you got to ask the question, do I want to keep doing this and pay myself $80,000 a year to do marketing? At some point, you're going to be forced out of seats in your company based on capacity. You're going to be forced. You have to. Because you're going to scale to the point where you can't do it all anymore. And the problem is, this is what happens with most entrepreneurs, is then they go replace themselves with people, and they're like, man, I'm only making 5% profit now. Well, why are you only making 5%? Because I'm still taking my 70% for me, because I have the lifestyle that I built around this. And now I have to pay this other employees to come in, and I only got 5% left.
Yeah.
And now the business looks bankrupt, right? It looks terrible. Yeah. Versus like when you stepped out of the seat of marketing, you should have gave back the company the $80,000 that was budgeted for that seat. And then you replace yourself with an $80,000 employee. You're like, well, but I built this lifestyle. But then you don't, then keep the seat. And if you're not going to keep the seat, then move to the owner's box.
And how do you recommend we are this in a lot of ways? Like, we definitely want the owner's box. We want that owner's distribution from profit to be ours. We don't want to be in 9 jobs in our company or 3 jobs or whatever. I want no jobs eventually.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, how does that transition take place responsibly and sustainably without crashing the entire company?
Well, it's what we did today. You have to start with identifying the seats you have in the organization. You have to identify how many hours it takes to perform the company's functions in that seat as is today, and determine how much you need to pay somebody for a market value to do that job. So if it's somebody in marketing and they're 15 hours a week, how much would you have to pay somebody to do that work for 15 hours a week? Right?
Yeah.
So what would be a 40-hour week employee, and divided by 40 hours a week, that tells you the hourly wage or the salary times 15 hours, and that tells you what you need to budget for that seat. And then you start taking that salary if that's what you're going to do.
Because I'm in the seat now, I start taking that.
You start taking that salary.
Yeah.
Yes. The company should see
So
that.
now you're at 40 hours a week, and you're like, do you want to keep doing this? Because you're at 40 hours a week, 10 hours a week here, and 10 hours a week here. I don't want to do the 40-hour week job anymore. Okay, that's fine. But your $80,000 a year that came with that budget for that salary is now gone. You're forfeiting that. You understand that?
It goes to the new
And isn't
employee.
that very hard for a lot of entrepreneurs to stomach?
Well, of course, if they've built their lifestyle around it. This is why I say you have to make sure that you have the right mindset going into it.
What do you do to make sure that you don't build a lifestyle around it?
You live within your means. You look at it and say, what seats am I going to sit in? And what seats do I not want to sit in the next 6 months from now? Which ones do I not want to have a budget for?
But it also gives you
So let me finish. So if you have a budget in 6 months from now, you're looking at it and say, I don't want to be in this seat, this seat, and this seat, or this seat, and I want to eventually hire these seats out. That means in 6 months from now, I'm not going to have this salary, this salary, this salary, this salary from those seats. Don't go out and buy the car.
Yeah, definitely not.
Right? Because you're going to have a certain budget left from not sitting in those seats. Now, hopefully, if you've hired enough people at that point, now your company's at a 25, 35, 40% margin. Your distributions are what you'll live off of as an owner if you're trying to get out.
And that's the stuff that can scale.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add. Now you can push for growth because you have people who can take the responsibility for doing that. Now distributions become that salary, that
Do
paycheck
people get
for
stuck
you.
on that mindset shift?
Yeah, 100%. There's 4 reasons people don't grow. Number 1 is fear. Fear of messing up, fear of doing the wrong thing, fear of not being the right leader, or they don't have enough knowledge, so they don't make the right decisions. So I always tell people you have to replace fear with knowledge. Right? That's why we read so much. Replace fear with knowledge, sustain it with faith. Number two reason why people don't scale is mindset. They start it wrong in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, they start it and then they build their lifestyle around it. They're like, man, if we did these 15 houses, me, you, and all of us, 3 of us are all we split that 3 ways and we build a lifestyle around that. I'm like, oh, congratulations. You all just bought into a job. Right?
Anyone feel that?
That's number 2.
Buy yourself into a job.
You buy yourself into a job.
Lots of times
you
it's
built
4
a
jobs.
lifestyle around it.
Yeah.
Number 3, the reason we don't scale is we don't have the right connections. We don't know what we don't know, and we make bad decisions that hurt us, or we don't get introduced to the right people that help us build a system and process to grow. Number 4 is not having the right system and process to grow the company. Those are the 4 reasons why most entrepreneurs don't scale. They either don't have the right systems and processes, they don't have the connections they need for money, growth, mindset, whatever. Number 3 is they don't have the right mindset, or number 4, they have too much fear holding them back.
Yeah.
Can I add something there? This is also where we see a lot of business divorces because owners start together and one person takes on more of the workload. But because we're splitting profit evenly, this guy's a little more burnt out, a little more frustrated and more involved in the day-to-day while this owner stepped away. And he's like, that's not fair. I'm the one performing the job. So again, if we set up our budget where he's getting a salary for the job he performs, and then at the bottom line, when net profit is there, that's when distribution happens. So that we start from the very base, the very foundation of the company. You get paid to be in this role. When you are no longer in this role, you don't get paid for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it has helped solve so many issues from owners fighting over the fact, I don't want to work in this business anymore. That's fine, but then you don't get a salary to be an owner. You get a distribution when there's profit left over. So it really does help give clarity to those roles in that position.
I mean, so we walked away today. You're in dispositions. He's the CEO, and then you have, your brother in finance. So you have to figure out, like the seats you're sitting in, how much you're willing to pay budget-wise to do distributions. How much are you willing to pay the CEO of the organization? How much are you willing to budget for finance? How much are you willing to budget for...
How do you find these market values? Like you mentioned, are you a $1 million company or a $10 million? That the CEO gets paid differently based off of...
Yeah, 100%.
What level this company's at.
You could go to mysalary.com.
Glassdoor does it too.
Glassdoor. You can go to a couple of different places online that help you determine what you should pay for.
You recommend businesses from day one, even if it's just yourself, should start thinking about these
Yes.
pieces.
That's like the viability of a business model, right? Because if you can't pay market values for the positions, then your business is not extremely viable, and you're going to trap yourself
where you're going to
into
get
a
talent.
job.
Where are you going to get talent from? If they can work at McDonald's and make more money than working for you as CEO, why would they come to work for you as CEO?
It's interesting being
So
a
it's like,
CEO.
I got this great idea. I got this great business model. I just got to get all my employees to work for $3.50 an hour.
We've tried that approach.
Yeah, that
Didn't work
that
for
doesn't
well.
We
work.
hired them from the Philippines, and then
But that's where business performance comes
yeah.
in, right? Every company starts with time, money, and people. And, once you have back it up. Once you have a passion, a product that makes profits, then you have to evaluate time, money, and people.
Yeah.
Time being how much time am I going to give this to succeed or fail? So within 1 year, are you at a point where you are not longer in the seats that you don't want to sit in? Time. Are we making the profits? This business is sustainable, making the money it needs to make in that time frame. Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? I have Sharper Studios. It says 2 year time frame. It's 2 years to hit the numbers that I projected in my pro forma, or I'll shut it down. Second thing is, how much money do I need to spend and how much money do I need to make? And what's my net profit going to be? That's where business pro forma comes in. Just like when we fix and flip a house, we do a pro forma to say, this is what we got to pay for the house. This is a COGS to repair it. This is what we can sell it for. And this is the profit we can make. That's a product or a property pro forma. We have to do the same thing with a business. You have to create a month-by-month projection of revenue, COGS, expenses, and net profit, which include the percentage of salaries based on how many hours you're spending in each seat. So if you're going to plan on paying a share market value of a marketing guy, and then share market value is $80,000 a year, and you need somebody to do marketing right now, and it's $5 or 5 hours a week, then what would you do? You would take 80,000 divided by 2080, and that tells you the hourly wage, and you times that by 5 hours a week and put it in your budget.
Makes sense.
So when it goes to 10 hours a week, they've just doubled your budget. Because if it goes to 10 hours a week, then then you've brought your revenue up double. Because every position start moving in time or commitment based on how much you're growing as an organization. So when it's grown to a point of everybody's at 40 hours a week, or we need them at 40 hours a week, then your budget should have grown to a 40-hour week salary. And that's where you can start to supplement and bring other people in full time. And so then we look at that business performance month by month and go, have we hit the revenue we projected? Do we have the expenses that we projected? And are we at the profits we projected? We are. Time to hire a marketing manager. Because we performed a marketing manager as soon as we hit these profits. As soon as we hit these numbers. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, next month. Oh, we're at this new growth point. All right, what do we need now? Well, we said when we got to this point, we were going to need a full-time finance person. Okay, we're there. We have the budget. Do you want to stay in finance? No, I don't. Okay, so we're hiring a full-time, salesman or finance manager now. Yes. Okay, then you're relinquishing the profits or the salary for that, and we're going to give it to this new sales manager or this new finance manager. That's how it works. That's how you slowly pull yourself back out of the quicksand. And last is people, which is who do we hire, when do we hire them by? So time, money, and people. And you do it in that order, then you're going to get to the end of the year or 2 years, and you're going to be able to determine, did this strategy work? Did I make the money that I predetermined in this time frame, and was I able to hire the people?
And how many businesses have you shut down?
Oh, my gosh. Probably 25, if I had to add it up real quick.
And how many businesses have worked?
Probably about the same, 24, 25.
What's the difference between what worked and what didn't?
Wrong people, wrong time,
Wrong product.
wrong product.
Lots of reasons,
There's
actually.
a lot of reasons. Sharper Talent was one. It was called Sharper Personnel when I first started it. And just didn't have the right business unit leader.
And then you reopened it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I felt like he wasn't doing what he said he was going to do. And it was profitable. We were making money, but it kept pulling me back in. Kept requiring my time. And it's like, man, you're going to shut this down? We made X amount of money. Yeah, I'm shutting it
Because
down.
your freedom's at stake here.
Because I don't have the power of choice anymore. You took my freedom away. So it's not worth it to me.
That's also a powerful thing to declare. I think a lot of times us entrepreneurs are like, well, I'll just ease on my freedom just for a little bit here because my business needs me. There's a scarcity thing going on with that. And you're chipping away at your honor with yourself about freedom.
Well, I mean, I don't think most people get the opportunity to face life the way I did. So in 2011, I almost died. I got bit by a tick, came out Lyme disease.
Yeah.
And so I don't value money. I value time.
We share that.
I mean, I 100% value time over money. Like, I've lost it all already. I filed bankruptcy in 2011. It was all gone. You know, I went from having very high success, executive level, lots of money in real estate. You know, 2008 hit, all my properties went underwater. I lost it all.
That's like the Book of Job.
Yeah, it was. I lost my health that year. I lost my business. I lost everything. The only thing I didn't lose was my kids, my family. You know, but I lost everything else in that 12-month window. And I woke up one day and I was like, you know what? If I can get myself back, get myself healthy again, then I'm going to respect my time. Because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. You know, I do this exercise with people. Like, the World Health Organization said that the average male lives to be 70.5 years of life. The average female is 75.5. So that's average around the whole world, okay? So, like, if you wanted to do the math on this, you could. So you take your current age and you minus off that number, right? So if I was grab my phone, and I showed you this math real quick. So the math is this: 70.5 years. I am 47 years old, so I have 23.5 years left, based on average, right? Times 365 days, I have 8,577 days left in this world.
I said the same thing the other day about our dog to my wife.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it a little bit differently, I have under 10,000 days left. If I was to go to the bank today, get $8,557 out, and give $1 away for the rest of my life, when that stash is gone, so is my life.
That creates urgency.
It will not feel like a long time.
No, it doesn't just create urgency. It makes me value my time.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a whole Robert Kiyosaki model. Robert Kiyosaki's model was you can be an employee where you exchange time for money. Right? Or you can be self-employed where you're still exchanging time for money.
You're still on the left side of the cash flow quadrant.
Right. Mm-hmm. Top right quadrant was exchange other people's time for money.
Yeah.
Which is a business. You're exchanging other people's time for money, or process or systems for money. The last quadrant is when you exchange money for money. And when you exchange money for money, it gives you what?
More money.
More time.
More time.
More freedom.
You're the investor quadrant. There.
Yeah. So I don't want to own a company to be an employee where I give my time. I want to own a company that I get my time back.
And it pays us money.
It pays me money.
Absolutely.
So that's why I won't keep a business that's causing me to spend my time in it.
What's the purpose of your time right now?
Purpose of my time is to fulfill my purpose in life, which is to do a good work that supports God's work. That's my purpose. That's how I measure it.
How are you supporting God's work?
Well, I mean, it's by doing a good work. Good work for me is anything that is done with an integrity play, an ethical play that makes us money and then allows us to give a percentage of that back to God's work. When I say God's work, I refer to God's work as if you've done it unto the least of them, you've done it unto me. That's what it says. So it's not just a church thing. It's a doing it unto the least of them.
What does that mean to you?
It's anybody in need. It's anybody without, anybody that's less fortunate, anybody that doesn't have. You know, and you can give back, and not just financially, you can give back in lots of areas. You know, I'm on the board with Wealthy Kingdom with Ryan Pineda, and then a tent maker with him, and invest in that. And the reason why I do is not just because we're giving money to it, but also because we're giving knowledge, right? I always tell people I want to give up my life. My life is labor, influence, finances, or experience.
You have a wealth of knowledge to scale this Christian nonprofit.
Right. So for me, you're asking, what do I want to do with my time? I want to give my life away. I want to give my labor, my influence, my finances, or my experience away.
We've got a really cool culture at Sharper. So we allow our leadership team once a month to direct where those funds go. So every leader on the leadership team gets to bring, hey, here's where I'd like to give my donation this month. And so they get to kind of pick and choose. It always goes to something that's approved by us. But like I want to say, we have a moderator on our team whose kids raising money for their soccer team, a Christian school. Obviously, funds are low at that place, and we're donating money for that this week. Like that's really cool because
in the Philippines or Mexico or wherever.
So they all get bought into what we're doing because we're doing it.
2 months ago.
So it's just it's just like business tithing that your team has a role in like deciding like, hey, we made
Where
this
it's
much
going.
money as a company. Now we get to choose like what we're supporting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
So like every Tuesday afternoon, all revenue, 1% of all revenue goes into an OPP account, OPM account.
OPM.
So we have multiple bank accounts. The OPM account is a bank account that is 100% designated to giving and for our purpose.
And OPM stands for other people's money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that 1% of revenue goes into that, and at the end of every month, whatever's in that account, one of the leaders, whoever month it was for them, get to choose where those proceeds go.
Cool.
Whoa. There's a lot of autonomy to it, giving a genuine impact.
Well, then it allows us to align in purpose.
Yeah.
What was your 2026 giving goal?
2.6 million. I want to give $2.6 million away by 2026 in one calendar year. That's our key purpose indicator. So our purpose is to do a good work that supports God's work. We're going to measure that by were we able to give up to $2.6 million away by 2026. Yeah. That's our goal. That's where I want to spend my time. So my purpose and everything I do in life is driven based on that mindset. So everyone's like, why do you push so hard? Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep doing what you're trying to do? Because it's not about me.
Yeah, you don't need to work for money anymore.
It's not about me. It's about our purpose.
Yeah.
You know, I made a promise to God when I almost passed away that if He gave me my life back, I'd give it back to helping other people. So that's why we write. That's why I have 5 books. That's why we have multiple businesses. Everything we do is a service-based business that helps others. It's not a business that we have that's not a business that doesn't help people. So I don't consider it a good work to own a casino. Could I make a lot of money owning a casino? Could I open a casino and easily make $2.6 million and give that money faster? Sure, probably. But I don't consider it a good work. It's not helping people.
It's not supporting God's work.
Make sense?
Makes sense. I made a very similar vow when I was 19. I fell down the mountain at Yosemite National Park and laid there all night. They brought search and rescue crew. I was in a stretcher. I was throwing up every hour from the medicine. I got airlifted out via helicopter, and it was the same promise. I will give my life for you.
I like that.
We share that.
That's great.
Cool.
Just got to get your time back so you have it to give.
Yeah.
We're coming towards the end of our time, but wow, that was great. We're gonna have some questions from the audience. I have one question for you as well.
Okay.
Like, in regards to leadership, something I've been thinking about a lot recently, just going through this leadership program. And one thing I've realized is that I've become a very good doer in life. I can do at a really high level. And when it comes to like transmuting that knowledge to doing through other people is where I hit. I've been given feedback that I try to teach in the way that I understand, but every single person is their own puzzle of like how they're motivated and how what motivates them.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what thoughts you have around that of being a leader of different
Well, I mean,
types of people.
95% of the people learn right now based on video. So whether they put captions and they read, they see, when you're doing a video and actually performing it, some people see you taking the action. So I would highly recommend that if you're going to delegate something or train somebody, you do it in the form of video.
What about like inspiring them to action and finding that like unique thing that unlocks their inspiration?
Yeah, something.
No, I would just say understand them as a person. What does motivate them? There's a phenomenal assessment tool called Find Your Mojo that will tell you this motivates me. There's 23 top motivators. I don't know all of them by the top of my head, but my number one motivator is learning. If you can put me in a situation where I can learn something new, I'm more motivated to go do it. But don't expect me to stay there for a couple of years because I'll get bored with it. Once I've learned it, once I've mastered it, I'm done. I want to move on to the next thing. So let me continue to learn as I go. My very bottom motivators is prestige. I don't need to be taught, touted. I don't need to be brought up in front of a stage. So that demotivates me. To know what motivates someone, it's also very important to know what demotivates them. So get to know them, understand what their behavior traits are, understand what their mojo is, understand what their fear assessment is. I have a very, very large fear assessment or fear of being a procrastinator. I procrastinate because I want things perfect before I ever attempt to go do them. But knowing that about me, Gary's always like, just get started. Just go do this. It doesn't have to be perfect. So you have to know more about the person than to just say what might motivate them.
What's the way to know them without giving them the test?
Why wouldn't you take
Why
the
wouldn't
test?
you take the test?
Well, for like my team, I would. Was just someone I just meet.
They might want to know themselves.
Jacob profile did a behavioral assessment of every girl he ever dated.
Yeah.
You know, he did a core values assessment of every girl he ever dated. Why wouldn't you? If you're really wanting, so I'll go back to asking you a question. Do you really truly want to impact their life?
Yeah.
And how can you do that if you don't know them?
Yeah.
And most people want to know more about themselves anyway. This is a great tool to be able to identify that.
Yeah, there's the find your the love language, or in the workplace, it's the 5 appreciations of the workplace by Gary Chapman. You have the doitscared.com, which is a fear assessment. I think it's a book. Both of these are books and assessments.
And both of those are free assessments.
Yep. Then you have Find Your Mojo, which is another assessment. You have a DISC profile or Kobe or you know something behavioral that you can figure out. But even one of these assessments help you determine how you're going to interact with a person. For example, if I have somebody in my life that that I'm looking to do something with. For example, like Susan. Susan is a low B profile. She doesn't have to be around people. She doesn't love to be around people, right? She doesn't really get energized to be around people. So why would you plan something with her where she's going to go spend a bunch of time with people if you're trying to make her happy,
about me,
right? So the next thing would be like, her love language. You got to figure out her love language. What does she like? Does she like gifts? Does she like acts of service? The other one would be learning. Her number one thing is learning. So how does she? What can you do with her that would help her learn something? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like you have to assess people and understand. The average CEO does like 7 assessments of every employee. So if you're truly going to impact people, you can't do it. If you're doing it, let me say this: if you're trying to impact people without knowing them, then it's selfish.
You're doing it your way,
You're
not
doing
theirs.
it for you, not them.
Yeah, that lands.
I feel like Tanur's really gifted at intuiting what drives people. I feel like that's.
I ask questions.
Yeah.
I listen. I basically run the assessment in some informal format.
But what's your behavior? What's your competency with Working Genius?
IG.
IG. So it's galvanizing. He wants to motivate them. He wants to solve their problem, and he wants to motivate them. Where's the E at for you?
The lowest.
Yeah. So he's like,
E, T are the 2 low frustrations.
So E for him is like, well, I don't want to go do it with you, but I want to motivate you to go do it.
That's my stretch right now, is working on how to walk and support people. And right now I'm offering a lot of support to a lot of people. There's some in the room right now. That's what I'm working on.
Well, hey, would you jump in and help me do this? You're like, bro, I already gave you an hour podcast on how to do this, right?
For sure.
So he's going to get demotivated. Again, you just have to know people.
Yeah.
So he's a maverick, so he likes to solve problems, right? He's also an I in competencies, so he really likes to solve problems. He might create problems just to solve them.
Phil doesn't like that about me.
Makes the business extra
likes
complex
chaos.
sometimes.
But he's galvanizing, so he wants to rally and motivate you guys to get it done. He wants to be that cheerleader behind it all.
Here's some
Right?
complexity for you guys.
Also. Let's go team.
Yeah, it's like go team, not let's go team. So like the E competency is like go team. If it's low, like you, it's a low competency.
Yeah.
Versus somebody with a high competency, so like Susan has a high E, she goes, let's go team.
Yeah.
I love
Biggest
the let's go team people.
And so
Well, you're not one. You love them because they're going to go do it. Let's go team. You're like, go team.
Yeah, so for you guys who don't know, what we're talking about here is predictive index tests, the big test that Gary uses and Susan uses for an assessment for just for learning about people. And for
So it's
hiring
Working
everything else.
Genius.
Working Genius is one by Patrick Lencioni. And that one, we've done masterminds just around that assessment, and that's an incredible assessment.
I mean, it's a great concept. It comes from Ephesians 4 in the Bible. So Patrick Lencioni, I met with him, went out in his office about 2 months ago. Me and Ryan Pineda did, and he wrote the whole thing based on God's gifts that he gave us in Ephesians 4. That's where it comes from. So great question.
Thank you guys for coming on the podcast. It's always incredibly fun to talk to you all. You're just a source of inspiration and knowledge, and I'm really grateful that you guys have decided to give your gifts to the world in the way that you do. And thanks for coming to Kansas, the Paris of the Midwest, to come out here to
The Bali of the Plains.
the Bali of the Plains, the Thailand of the
You
cornfields.
make it sound so good. Where are you moving to?
All around.
Oh, gotcha. It's not Kansas, right?
No,
Oh, I got you.
I always come back to
He's
Kansas.
He's like, it's so beautiful here. I'll be in Virginia in a month.
All all roads will lead back to Kansas. If you really
It
think
does,
about
Dorothy.
it. So,
We love Kansas.
Just bring your red slippers with you. It'll come back. Good. Well, thank you for having us on. We enjoyed it as well. And it's always a pleasure to be asked to be on podcasts. And honestly, more importantly than anything, it's a pleasure to be able to give our lives and help other people. So it's not a chore for us in any way. We appreciate the compliments, but it's an honor to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, and you guys can find where can we find you guys?
Yeah, you can find us on sharperbusiness.com is our website. My personal website is GaryHarper.com, and then we have both social media platforms on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and even X. We're on all those platforms. Sharper and my personal brand is on there, both those locations as well. And then Amazon, we have 5 books on Amazon that you can go and purchase. We actually just have a 6th book that's coming out soon. It's called the Penny the Purposeful Panda. It's a children's book that I just finished writing. I wrote it for my grandson, but it talks about finding your purpose as a kid. So
Wow.
It's a pretty cool hardback book that I wrote, and Penny the Panda. We have a couple other books coming out. Remy the Resource Raccoon, Susie the Slothful Systems, and then the Ellie the Elephant that's coming out. So
Kid series.
Yeah, we have a little kid series coming.
We'll be
And then-
buying those.
It's for our nonprofit, The Rise Generation, where we want to teach these principles to children and teenagers so they start life a lot better than we did.
Yeah, 2025 we'll be launching a curriculum that's like Rise for Business. We'll have a Rise for Youth, and it's for 13 to 19-year-olds on how to find their way of life. Yeah. So a pretty impressive curriculum coming out soon.
Oh.
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge you guys. You have such a heart for people, and you put in the work every day to show up in a big way. You've aligned your life to God's purpose in your life, and you're doing it together. It's such a model for what I want to see in my life and my communities.
Well, I appreciate that.
And this interview is a dream come true.
Well, thank you.
Thank
you guys
you.
for allowing us to be part of
Thank
it.
you.
Appreciate you.
Let's go. People of purpose.